Hey family, you're tuning in to the Jimmy Bonds podcast on Illadelphia Radio. Pardon any technical difficulties as we are recording live on the Zoom platform. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Yeah. Jimmy. Lights, camera, action. Some people thought I quit and I ain't giving satisfaction. From a different era, writing rhymes up on napkins. What you had to say was more important, man, than trapping. Yeah, I'm talking back to speaking of.
What's good, family, and welcome to another episode of Jimmy Bonds Podcast on Illadelphia Radio. This episode is sponsored by Major Flavor Catering. I'm your host, Jimmy Bonds, along with my co-host, Ty T. Wow, what's good, Ty? How you feeling?
All good in the neighborhood, live from the 215.
You know how we do. Live from the 215. And you know, I can't forget my other co-host, lovely Miss T with the T. She's not here with us today, but she's here with us in spirit, as always. Moving right along, family. Remember, you can call us with your comments and questions at 844-844-1244. Again, it's 844-844-1244. You can also email us at jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. Again, it's jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. That's JIMMYBONDS podcast@gmail.com. Also, fam, remember, you can follow us on Instagram at Jimmy Bonds Podcast, on Twitter at Podcast Bonds, and make sure you join our Facebook group, Jimmy Bonds Podcast Facebook group. Let's continue to open the dialogue. Well, family, on this episode, we are continuing our Artist Spotlight series. I like to really call this one the Red Devil Nation because my Red Devil Nation is large. Everybody don't know who Red Devils are, but that's my high school mascot. So Red Devil Nation is large. Listen, family, on this episode, we got somebody joining us that's super special to me, to my family, to my crew, everybody I know. I've known this dude for about 30 years. And wow. we've been probably more than that, but you know, he's somebody I call my brother. So yeah, man. Let me give you some of his accolades. Let me give you some stuff he's done.
You don't have to do
all right.
This, Jay.
He's the senior writer at Undefeated. He's been a commentator, or he is a commentator on Around the Horn and Outside the Lines on ESPN. He's on ESPN Radio. You've seen him on SportsCenter. He's done many pieces on E60 News Magazine. He was a regular at the WTOP radio station. He's a former editor of the Washington Post. That newspaper, yes.
I was an editor at the Washington Post.
He was not
the editor of the Washington Post.
He's correcting me. But family, he's done many interviews with some of the biggest names in sports entertainment, from John Morant, Kyler Murray, Mookie Betts, and of course, Childish Gambino, to name a few. He's smart, he's intelligent, he's intellectual, he's funny, he's opinionated, he's conscious, he's insightful, he's genuine. He's somebody I call my brother. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for my brother, Clinton Yates. What's up, C? How you feeling?
All right.
My man, that's the nicest stuff anybody said about me, probably since the last time I was in high school. Ain't nobody say nothing nice to me in high school either, except for y'all. So that's what's up, man. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here, man.
Listen, we're glad to have you, man. See, we go back, dog. We go back
way back.
We go
when
back.
People
like
tell
brothers.
you that people go back.
No, we go back.
They be lying to each other.
Nah.
They don't know what goes on. You got to sleep over at each other's houses in the middle of the week. You know what I'm saying? So y'all can get to school the next day. So ain't nobody going broke over how to get on a train. People don't understand that. People think that go back means y'all took a summer class together when you were 19. No, my guy. That's not how this works. Okay. But back when the trains in DC did not tell you when they were coming. You just had to sit on a platform and wait.
They don't know about them days. Now
that's
everything is all automated. You can look at your phone, look at the board, and you can see the metro. Look. We from back in the day.
That's what I'm talking about.
Anyway. I'm from the south side of DC. He grew up in the north side of DC. We are truly Washingtonians.
That's what's going on.
Truly. Okay. When it was Chocolate City. All right. You know, see. Yeah, we used to live together, bro. So
I got all the mixtapes.
Listen, you got everything. I don't even have to say anything when you understand. But you know, when we was kids, you were super opinionated. See, super opinionated. And as you see, I see now that's the way you are. So you know, how does it feel to turn your opinions into a career?
I'm glad you asked that, because one of the things that we used to do for all the listeners is that, you know, listen, you going to basketball practice, you ride in the back of the bus, you got to be able to talk that talk. That's just how we entertained each other. Yeah. It's how we made each other smarter. Yeah. It's how we had fun, you know. And for me, you know, once I sort of realized that there was a path to be able to do that professionally, and listen, it took me a lot. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I just said, oh, yeah, I'm going to do this. No. I knew that in order for people to take me seriously, and I'm glad you brought up the point about Washingtonians in our generation. I'm 40 this year. You know what I'm saying? And
I'm 41. So
people always look at, they're wondering, oh, he's from DC. Oh, he's from that. You know why you don't see that many brothers our age from DC? Because we didn't make it.
Yeah, bro.
You know what I mean? And that's what it comes down to. Whether you got taken on the penitentiary level or whether you lost your life, you know, that was very real. So for me, it was important to be able to learn and grow enough that if I did get to the point where I was doing more than just talking trash in the back of a bus, I really knew what I was talking about. No doubt. So at this stage, to be able to, I mean, you know, to be able to represent what I feel is our generation, that means the world to me, man. You know what I'm saying? I come back home and cats got love. I go to the barbershop. I walk all around. People like, hey, Yates, I heard you on the radio. Hey, I saw you. Like, it's not cool because it's dope to be right on TV. Nobody cares about that. What I care about is making sure that what I represent is who we are. And I don't mean that in terms of I'm a realer in this one. That's not about that. I just know what I've seen. You know what I'm saying? I know what I've seen. I know what I covered. I know who I know, and I know what people tell me, and I do the work. You know what I mean? And that's the thing I think a lot of people don't realize, man. I'm not just sitting up in here watching my TV. You know what I mean? I do that a lot, but I also be getting out here, you know, to these courts, you know, to these rinks, to these ball fields. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it really comes down to. I think a lot of people think that it's just a matter of your boy looking so good and just sounding so great. It's not about that, you know. I see
you, the host over there on the draft night and swag night. They go to Clinton for the freaking.
Okay,
Clinton,
you know how your boy gets down.
Please tell us about who had the best dress. I'm sitting there watching this like, come on, dog. Like this, come on, see, this is where we used to go back in high school. See,
right?
We was like this in high school.
This is what they say. This is what I try to tell these people, Jay. Bama's act like this is all an act, and they act like, oh man, really, you just doing this for the camera. I'm like, my guy, you want to come hang out with me and my boys and drink beers on the couch and watch TV all night? Because this is what we do. I talk the same way. I just managed to monetize this junk to get on TV for a reason, you know, because I'm about this anyway. That's true. That's real.
I told you. Listen, I told you. This is like brothers talking like just sitting at a bar. You know what I mean? It's been a long time coming. You know what I'm saying? And we of course we got more questions for you. See, I'm gonna let Ty jump in and make sure you go ahead. Ty, do your thing. Ty, do your thing.
Yes. Mr. Clinton.
Yes.
Do you hear or see any stereotypes within your field of work as far as Black people are concerned?
Yeah, I think there's a lot. I mean, I think that there's two different ways that can go with that. And I think Jay's going to understand the first part a lot, which is that the number one stereotype is that, maybe not stereotype, but sort of narrative that I think we deal with is that being the only Black man in one place is a hard thing to overcome if there's more than one. Yeah. I remember when Dominique Foxworth and Mina Kimes and I started doing the morning roast, people would frequently confuse me and Dominique just because we're two brothers around the same age that look the same. Mm-hmm. And
from the same area too.
From the same area. He's from Baltimore, you know, and we both were sort of relatively smart, educated people. I say relatively because of me. That man went to Harvard. He's very smart. Yeah, but what I'm saying is that like people couldn't understand that we could both exist in the same place without overlapping each other. And Fox is just one person I'm talking about. But that's one of the narratives that's hardest to deal with in this industry is you walk into a room and if you're not talking about basketball or about football, there's no room for two Black people, never mind two Black men, never mind two young Black men who happen to talk similarly or whatever. So, you know, I get a lot of talk, when are you trying to be like Bomani or be like Stephen A? And I'm like, listen, I like and respect those guys, but I don't need to be like them. I'm not them, you know? And that's a hard thing to deal with sometimes when you're trying to speak for Black folks, but you're not speaking for all Black folks. You're speaking for the Black folks that you know, and that's what, you know, how you come with it. So that's one part. The other thing is obviously sort of the major one, which is the angry Black man factor. But I mean that in this way. I mean that in a lot of people, when they realize that either you're right or you're perhaps, I don't want to say this arrogantly, but if you go into saying more informed than they are, not necessarily smarter than they are, they get tight and it's like, oh, you mad. And it's like, no, I'm not mad. This is my job, dog. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like literally, I spend my time watching, analyzing, talking, and getting to know not just athletes, not just coaches, but their families, the people around them. You know, Jay, how important that is to you. It's super important. The family element is my whole junk.
That's it. That's all it is.
And so when people come at me like, oh yeah, you just hate this, that, and the third person, I'm like, no, my guy, I might look young. I'm not that old, but I've been paying attention for long enough that when I tell you something, I'm telling you for a reason. It's not because I'm just popping off, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm trying to get some retweets. That's not how any of this works.
I think that's what it is, though. They think you're just trying to get some name on it.
And that's what I'm saying, Chai, is that those are the two main things. It's parallel to one another in terms of, oh, well, dang, brother, you another brother like those other brothers. I'm like, okay, yeah, but like we come as a collective, not as the same. And number two, it's like, oh, he can't possibly mean that. How could he be right about that? I'm like, I mean, dog, why would I lie? I didn't get this.
I ain't gonna lie though. You did call Tampa Bay. You did call Tampa Bay. I remember you saying it on Around the Horn. You called Tampa Bay. Everybody else said the Chiefs. You was
if Gronkowski had got one more touchdown, he would have been the MVP, which is who I had as a touchdown. As a matter of fact, Tom should have thrown to him in the second quarter in the back of the end zone. He threw that bam in the front of the end zone. Dude dropped it. See, I was like, come on.
I mean, see, you called it. I can't say you're wrong.
You know,
I can't say you're wrong.
I watch the games. I do the work. I'll be trying. If I'm wrong, so be it, man. I'm not here to be right. I'm here to have fun.
Listen, I understand. And listen, we'll talk about being wrong later on when we talk about my story with Bubba Chuck. Okay. You know, I'll put that out there. Let everybody
I was hoping
know.
that would come up.
You know, it had to come up because you kind of put it out there too. You definitely let me know about it. But that's okay. Yeah. We'll talk about that soon. Go ahead, Ty. My fault. Go ahead, Ty.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. What has been your most memorable story to this point in your life, covering athletes, people in general?
There's a couple, and I'll break it down by where I've worked. So I remember when I was at Express, the free daily. I was the local news editor there, and the ballpark, the Nationals Park came whilst I was there. And this sounds dorky, but like at the time we did a whole, what's called a special section. You know, you get more pages, you give it out for free, and people have a little guide to the ballpark. Now, baseball had been in DC for a while, obviously, because they were at RFK, not a while, but like, you know, 1 year. And they'd been building this thing. It was a whole local issue. Like, it was a big deal in terms of the bonds and what they knocked down in Navy Yard and all that. I mean, I'm not going to get into gentrification because I just don't have that kind of energy right now. But I got to write a guide to the bars around the ballpark. And I was like, I took this very seriously, you know, because A, I hung out at these places, and B, from a responsibility standpoint, I had to like describe them to people that otherwise didn't know them. I happened to live in Capitol South at the time. Potomac Ave, my bad, at the time. So I lived right near one of them, and I knew all the rest of them just from knowing Bama's around the way. And so I was like, man, I was very, very proud of that at the time. You know, I'm 28 years old or whatever it was, and it was really important to me. So that was one. A second one was when I wrote for the Post. Jay knows that back in the day, graffiti art was my whole thing. Jay got into the hip hop game as a rapper. To me, I'm an artist. If you ever see my handwriting, you would think I was a genius. You know what I'm saying?
What was your hit name?
My Jonas Ace. I tagged Inferno in high school. I wrote Zest for a little while, but now I just write things for people. Jay knows if you had a party in high school, you went to C's to get the invite moving. He
was a cat carrying around the scrapbook, right?
You know what I'm saying?
He was with it. Like,
nice
graffiti.
like that.
That's really what it was.
That's what I did. You know what I mean? It was a large part of my life. You know, I talked about the train earlier. I lived at Tacoma, where you rode the red line, and before you got to Union Station, it was 20 whole minutes of just seeing graffiti pieces outside on the warehouses. So like, this is my whole thing. So when the people that made the movie called The Legend of Cool Disco Dan came to me because they just knew how much I cared about graffiti in DC, to talk to him about not just the movie for promo, but about the fact that Dan, the late great Dan, Danny Hogue was his name, he had a serious mental health problem. And he had never sort of admitted that publicly. And listen, it's not a big deal. It's not like Dan was on reality shows where he was having to answer for this. But Cool Disco Dan was a DC legend. And he was from an era of the city that Jay and I know very well. Very well. And when the people that had known him, I mean, these are two graffiti writers that were making this movie. So it wasn't like they were like Hollywood hotshots. They were not brothers. They were white dudes who knew me based on just the scene of like what I was covering. Because as the local columnist at the time, I let people know what I was about. We're going to talk about this street art. We're going to talk about this, that, and the third, you know, because that's what I understand about DC. And so when it came to me for that, and I got to meet Danny and hang out with him, and he told me straight up, like, what he was dealing with as an affliction. Affliction is a bad word, pardon me, as his condition mentally, you know, it was a full circle moment for me, you know, so that was wild. So that's number two. And the third one I'll say, and there's been a bunch, you know, at ESPN. And I say that because I've been blessed with just being able to do whatever I want, Jay. You know what I'm saying? These people out here let me say whatever I want. They were not ready anyway. But the one that mattered to me a lot was going down to College Park to talk to 2 Chainz about what it meant to him to be a part owner of the College Park Skyhawks, who are in the G League, and to give back routinely to his high school. And he has like a camp that he runs every Christmas, and to meet him. And it wasn't the first time I met him. So like, you know, to talk to him about what he does for the kids. I mean, it's stuff like that to me. And I haven't even mentioned baseball. Baseball is a whole other silo that is the main thing on a lot of levels in terms of sports. But like, for me, those are 3 things that I was just like, man, you know, you do what you do, and you hope that people believe that who you are is real. And when they do, if you give it back, it comes back the same way. That's why I'm chilling
come back
at the Malibu
triple
Mountains
fold,
right now.
Come back triple fold, see.
Yeah, man.
I mean, it comes back. You can tell the impact that you've made in so many arenas. You know, not just in sports, not just in writing, but really across. Yeah, you're definitely an artist, bro. I call us the artist spotlight because you are an artist.
Thank you, man. Let me say this right quick. I was talking to a brother in Sacramento yesterday, a young man who works for the Sacramento Bee, and we were talking about like images and what people look like. And I told him, I said, man, when I got on Around the Horn, I got one haircut. That was a week before I went on the show, and I let that junk grow for a whole year. Just naps.
I remember that.
You know what I'm saying? Cats looking at me like, yo, kind of greasy. I'm like,
cut your hair. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Why would I cut my hair? Give me one good reason why I should cut my hair that has nothing to do with you.
Cut your hair. You need to look better on TV, Clinton. You need to look better.
I told these people, I said, I need these young Black boys and girls to see that we can look however we want to look. And as long as you got the talent, and as long as you got the drive, you going to get here. You know what I'm saying? I might, listen, you think your boy doesn't know that I'm in the Handsome Man delegation? I know that. All right.
I know.
I don't need to let them know every day of the week. Every once in a while, I got to remind these people that I'm happy to be nappy. And I don't have any issue with that. Listen, you know what I'm saying? That's not a problem for me.
It's not wrong with it,
and
man.
so that's what that was about. So in terms of all of that, thank you. In terms of impact made, I pay attention. Just because I make it look easy doesn't mean it is.
No, I know, bro. We talked about it. I mean, people don't know that you watch how many sports you watch. I mean, you watch an enormous amount of. I mean, we did anyway, just in general. But just, I mean, for crying out loud, they don't know how much you have to cover, what you have to cover, the stories you have to go get the information on, the research, all of it. I mean, listen, it's not just a job. It's something that it's a career.
It's a lifestyle.
And, it's definitely a lifestyle. And people don't understand that what they see on TV is not everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't wake up, don't turn Around the Horn on for a half hour and be like, oh, that's all he does? That's easy.
Yeah, right.
That's
I can do that.
easy.
He talks for 30 seconds at a time. I can make that point. It's like, first of all, you couldn't. And second of all, it's a TV show. It's a game show. Relax. You know what I'm saying?
Relax, exactly. Like you want to be in my seat. You know you want to be in my seat, right?
And I get what you're saying, Jay. And to add to that point, trust me, if you're like the 12th man on the bench in the league, you can still dunk on every Joe you come up to on a regular basketball court. Trust me, I get that. And I have to do it occasionally. But like, it's not about that. You know what I'm saying? It's about, I mean, I know what's going on because the fun part is telling other people what's going on, not for me to be the one that's hoarding all the information and all the takes. That's boring.
That's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. Listen, we're gonna take a quick break. We come right back. We're gonna go back home for a little bit, talk about home a little bit. We're gonna talk about some other stuff a little bit. Well, listen, family, my man Clinton Yates is joining us tonight. You know, look, man, I'm home, boy. I'm happy as hell right now, man.
Man.
Well, listen, family, you can call us with your comments, questions at 844-844-1244. Again, it's 844-844-1244. You can email us at jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. Again, it's jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. That's JIMMYBONDS podcast@gmail.com. You'll listen to Jimmy Bond's podcast on Illadelphia Radio. We'll be right back.
Is it on? I said, is the mic on? It is. Okay, all right, yeah. This is Reverend CC Chicken Wing, and I love listening to the Jimmy Bond's podcast. Insightful, thoughtful words that uplift the people and bring them knowledge to the people. That's the brother Jimmy Bonds right there. You can reach out to the brother too at the Jimmy Bonds podcast @gmail.com. This is Reverend CC Chicken Wing. Is the mic still on? Is it on? Okay.
Hey, this is Michael from Up at Derby. Listen to Jimmy Bonds podcast on Undefeated Radio.
Welcome back to the Jimmy Bonds podcast on Illadelphia Radio. We thank you for listening. Remember, family, you can call us at 844-844-1244. Again, it's 844-844-1244. You can also email us at jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. Again, it's jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. That's JIMMYBONDS podcast@gmail.com. And welcome back to Jimmy Bond's podcast on Illadelphia Radio. Now, family, again, we are joined by my brother, Clinton Yates. You know him from the Undefeated, ESPN, Sports Center, all that good stuff.
And you know me from the streets of D.C.
Yeah, streets,
all right.
Definitely.
Don't act like you haven't seen me out here yelling at you and your girl talking some noise in the bar.
Listen,
I've been doing that.
You know him. I mean, you've seen him, you know him, you know why he does what he does. You know what I'm saying? But see, so, I'm going to talk to you about something real quick. Let the family in on something. So back in the day, before Allen Iverson got drafted, me and C had this major argument in the bus. I mean, he would not let up on it. I played point guard, right? I was a point guard. C played two guard. He was a two guard. He's shooting guard, right? So he, but he could decipher things sometimes better than I could. To
be clear, when Jay left school and I became not the point guard but the two guard on varsity as a senior, I guarded the point guard.
Yeah,
he was two guard to give you an idea of what kind of mentality
he was. He was a 3D dude. He was a 3D, definitely a 3D dude for sure. So, I coach Mr. O used to always, drive us, take us around, do stuff. He always be like, don't have bad court vision. Don't have bad court vision. That was his thing. Bad court vision, Jay. That's bad court vision. Come on, goodness gracious, Clinton, bad court vision. Make a long story short, me and Clinton got into this argument one day. It was about Allen Iverson and Jacques Vaughn. Okay?
Jacques Vaughn.
Okay. Allen Iverson and Jacques Vaughn.
Kansas point guard.
People don't know who, you don't know who Jacques Vaughn is. He's not playing anymore in the league. He's actually a coach.
He's a coach. Yeah, he's a good guy.
The argument was my side of the argument was I thought Jacques Vaughn was going to be a better player than Allen Iverson in the NBA.
Ooh.
Okay, that was. Now, hold on,
let me intercept here. To be fair to Jay's argument, what he was saying made actual sense.
See?
He was like, "Look, he went to Kansas. He's under control. He's got excellent court vision. He plays with guys that are probably going to be pros as well.
Yep.
I see his skill set translating well to the NBA. I don't want this to come out and seem like Jay was some big Jacques Vaughn guy. It was actually a pretty mature take from Jay.
At 16, 17, that's where we were, right? I had him shook. I had him shook. I had my argument points. Now, keep in mind, I'm a good debater. I like to debate, but I had my argument points. Now,
I wasn't having it.
No, he wasn't having it. No, he wasn't having it.
My simple stance was this. I was like, listen, y'all can have Jacques Vaughn. All I care about is Allen Iverson. And once Iverson hits the league, y'all just aren't going to be ready. I say, I know that I'm predicting something that is not measurable.
Yeah.
But I was like, listen, as much basketball as we've all seen, we're 15 years old, looking right at each other. We've all seen the same amount of basketball because we all watch all the basketball and play all the basketball together. I'm like, dog, Iverson is been to kill it.
Yeah.
Trust me on this one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We didn't talk for like 2 days after this argument about it.
No, we didn't.
Multiple
really
practices.
about it.
We didn't sit on the same side. It was a mess.
I mean, we beef stupid about this thing.
Exactly.
And what are we talking about? What 15, 20, 30 years later, we look back on it and I was dead wrong. I was dead wrong. I mean, so wrong that it's like I can't be any wronger. You know what I mean?
To be fair, though, I think your point actually tracked. Jacques Vaughn is the coach now.
I mean, he is.
I ain't no coach.
No,
I think your point would, if you had simply said, but it wasn't no way to see this at the time because we weren't thinking like this. But if you'd said Jacques Vaughn's going to be a great coach in the league someday, I've been even more shook.
Yeah,
but that was actually what was true. And that's probably what you were actually saying.
I was close. He has a coach's eye. So I was close to the point. But at the same time, I mean, look, we in the city of Bubba Chuck, for crying out loud, man.
Yep.
You know he is a god in Philadelphia. God. I mean, he's
a god in DC. My favorite basketball player.
I mean, no doubt. Georgetown all day. You know what I mean? So it's like for me, it was always about making sure I had my points right. And as I see Clinton now in his arena and what he does, I remember those days of back on the bus. I remember those arguments. I remember those concepts, that insight. You know what I'm saying? So I always appreciate you for that, C, just for even calling it like it is, when it is. How it means
so much to me, bro, because people always ask, like, man, you're pretty good at this. I'm like, bro, you know where I'm from?
Listen,
you know what I'm saying? We arguing on the metro. We arguing on the court. We arguing in class.
Clint was a year behind me. Clint was a year behind me. You know what I mean? So
we doing this. We arguing in the bar when we grow up. Like, and I don't mean that for the sake of doing it, but just like you step in a cipher, Jay. Just like, you play the dozens with whatever. This was just how we did it. Yeah. At our school time, in case you don't know this, like we had a small amount of black folks, but it was a large amount of black folks for the percentage of people overall at the school at the time.
Very much so.
In my grade, we had 50 people that were in the graduating class. We had 7 brothers alone, which was a large percentage of the culture considering. You know what I'm saying?
Shout out to Reg. Shout out to Reg.
Shout out to Reg. Shout out to Solid. Shout out to Damien. Shout out to everybody.
Solid, all of them. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And like, I still talk to those guys to this day, Dennis and everybody.
Yeah.
And like, for me, I realized that world, that cauldron that we sort of grew up in, where we were allowed to be ourselves as brothers. I mean, listen, they weren't letting us run wild here. This was not a St. Vincent St. Mary's situation.
Nah.
You know what I'm saying?
Nah.
But like with LeBron and them, and I'm joking, I'm saying LeBron and them just ran a jump because they were that dope. But my point is that like we got to be black in a very real way,
yes.
And so when I was going hard about Chuck, that was a real deal issue in the school. People were like, yo, J and C's ain't talking. What's it about? Everybody was like, don't worry about it. It's not even that serious.
It's not even that serious, right?
You know what I mean? But it voice to us. You know what I mean? And so my point is that I'm genuine with it. You know, I have no reason to lie. I've never been doing this for flash. You know what I'm saying? I've been doing this because my homies know that I'm about that. You know what I mean? If I woke up every day and y'all were hitting me like, damn, Yates, you out here playing yourself, that would not be okay.
Nah, absolutely.
That's not what we're doing.
Listen, I mean, call it like it is. You know, your family tell you what it is when it's supposed to be done. You know what I mean? You're real recognize real men make sure we keep ourselves at a certain level in a certain place. It is what it is. You know what I mean? But moving right along, bro. Let me talk to you about this real quick, because I noticed something that you do as far as the journalism aspect is concerned. I noticed that you do a lot of pieces on Black people in particular, and past and present, you know, in baseball, basketball, whatever. You really touch a nerve for what the history of it is, and particularly in baseball, especially at Jackie Robinson piece. Yeah. I think about it. I wonder, what do you feel was the responsibility that you have as a narrator, those stories? Now that we're older, now that we're not the generation that's younger coming up. We're the ones actually holding those stories to pass on to the youth. What do you feel as your responsibility as a narrator?
Pardon my French here, Jay, but this is a tremendous fucking question. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate that. Because that's real. That's what it is. It's a responsibility as a narrator, because a lot of times I think people think that I'm just trying to, and I'm not going to say in the me realm, I'm just going to print this out per the last point. You're right. Narrator is exactly the word, because a lot of things, it's not just me telling you. It's not just me being like, see, I told you. It's like, no, hey, here's just what happened. You know what I mean? Here's a way to come along with the story. And so the responsibility for me, it lies in making sure that the story is enjoyable enough for people to remember it. That's a huge part about all this. And number two, informative enough for it to change, maybe not change, but affect how they think about things going forward. So I remember when the Nationals won the World Series, and, you know, a little behind the curtain on this. So they won that game. I was in 3 cities in 2 days. I woke up that morning in Connecticut. I flew to Houston for Game 7. I got there in the third, and I had been to every other game in that series. I rode with some random dude who I found on Twitter, by the by, and I was like, if anybody is at the Houston airport and wants to give your boy a ride, how about it? And some guy was on the plane and hit me back. He was like, I'm on the same plane. I got a car ready. Just come with me. I know your work. I was like, my dude. So we get to the park, and I end up, you know, they win the World Series, and I go to the hotel because, you know, I know a couple people. Your boy wants to do a little partying, you know what I mean, with the squad. And so we did that. Next thing I know, it's 4 a.m. I've got a 7 a.m. flight to Dallas because I got to go do the TV show, because that day was Halloween. Yeah. And I got to write this column in between partying and going to the thing. And like, I wasn't blasted. It wasn't about that. It was just, you know, I was just out. And I remember I was sitting in the Houston airport. I'm eating breakfast. I'm writing this column, and I'm in full tears, Jay. I'm crying my eyes out because now it's not just about the team. Like, you know, teams winning is one thing, but like I wrote this whole column about how people forget that, like, the simple history of how people get to certain paths is so easily forgotten, because when you see them at the top, you sort of assume a certain amount of things have happened. It's either been the worst struggle or it's been the easiest path because you were so great. And a lot of times it's so much more in between, you know? And I explained what it was like with my Uncle Johnny. You met Uncle Johnny a couple of times, you know, he passed, but you know Uncle Johnny. Uncle Johnny used to take me to baseball practice in his cab because the Negro drove a cab. Yep. You know what I'm saying? And when my dad was working, that's how it was. And I show up to practice, people would be like, okay, you took a cab to practice? I'm like, no, I rode in my uncle's cab, you asshole. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm about to go out here and knock you out the yard. You know what I mean? And like, the reason I say that is because those interim parts, Jay, are part of the responsibility. I have to let people know that Black folks didn't just show up out the womb, 6'8", 240, ready to dunk on your head. Yeah. Somebody helped build them. A lot of people probably helped build them. A lot of people probably kept them safe. And a lot of people probably allowed them to flourish and feel that they could do anything at all. And so those parts, the mothers, the coaches, the people in your household, the people at your church, the people at wherever, those people are equally important as the star. And they are oftentimes more interesting. That's the other side part. You know what I'm saying? And so the responsibility to me, Jay, was huge. And just to use a quick example, you know, Jay and I worked at the same bank back in the day.
We did.
If I tried to tell that story without talking about Dottie and without talking about Connie, that wouldn't even make sense. You know what I'm saying? Because these were people that worked with us, that were a vital part of who we are and taught us how to move, even if they weren't the ones in the spotlight. And that's so important to me to be able, because I feel that same way. You know, I didn't want to do TV for a long time. I was halfway scared to tell my tapes when I would go around the world. I talked to my boys about them, but like I had to learn because people had to, you know, instill something in me. And that's what I try to explain to people. Like, how folks get to where they are is as important as where they end up sometimes, especially for Black people, because we get our junk cut off so early, so quickly. So that's the responsibility for me. And I thank you for asking that, Jay, because I take it very serious.
Listen, I mean, look, man, the responsibility is major. I take it seriously. I think I'll tell people all the time, like, this is kind of like, this is my power. This is how
your gift.
This is how we hold conversations and we grab minds at the same time. You know what I mean? It's one of those things that people don't like. It is a responsibility. If you don't take it seriously, then you shouldn't be doing it. That's just plain and simple.
That's a great point. And I just want to say something quickly on that. If you don't take it seriously, you shouldn't be doing it. It's something that I think that a lot of people assume most Black people don't take into account. They assume, oh, you a brother. You just talk greasy because you nice with it, because that's how you are. Nah, my guy. There's a lot of Bamas out here that do a lot of yapping. You know what I mean? And A, they don't know nothing. And B, they ain't saying nothing. No. You know what I mean? I take it seriously because it matters. You take it seriously. I mean, yo, bro. I mean, look, man, we can dive deep into this, man. It's something we've always had. Well, we know where we come from, where we cut from, the people that we're cut from, mamas, daddies, sisters, brothers, everybody included. You know what I mean? So we know the roots that we have to really keep. You know Absolutely.
What I'm saying? And that's
a responsibility, and it's one I take on gladly.
Yes, very much so. Very gladly and definitely do it with pride. You know what I mean? So definitely. So, we was talking about something. You mentioned something earlier. You was talking about the families and the moms and the dads. And I saw that you did a story recently on this young cat out of Alabama.
Dylan Smith.
Yeah. And I love the story. I read the story. It's fantastic. Talked a lot about his family. You captured a lot about his mom and his grandma and just the whole concept of it all. But, I always wondered, man, why is it, do you think that more Black people don't start pushing their kids towards baseball?
Oh, man. So this is, I'll keep it to the short version because we ain't got all night, but not the short version. But I think the part that's going to matter to you is that you remember when I played baseball, our school didn't have a baseball team. No. But I played baseball. You play club, you play leagues, you got all that. I think that, we're talking 90s, mid 90s, late 90s. I looked at it as, okay, because my parents were divorced. And I looked at it as, well, they can't drive me to practice, or they've got to work, or they don't really like baseball. I didn't really see it as the sort of institutional kind of barrier, which was that if they didn't take me to basketball practice, I was still going to play basketball because there was a court right there and all my friends were playing. And that was how I was probably getting someplace anyway. Baseball isolated itself for the purposes of when it became clear that there was sort of more baseball to go around than there were talents to be had. Well, that's when it became commodified by a certain part of America to make it a money-making industry and not a for love of the game industry. And this is not some baseball agnostic, this is not a baseball specific problem. This is sort of sports agnostic in youth. AAU basketball has been a big part of this. There's a reason there are people that believe that the U.S. men's soccer team will never be good as long as pay to play is the way that soccer players in this country from the developmental level come up. So this is all tied together. For sure. And in D.C., we didn't have a baseball team. We had the O's, and Jay knows how this was. You liked the O's, but nobody really cared if the Baltimore Orioles won or lost anything. They were in Baltimore. Nobody cares. So you see them, and I remember when the team came, it was a large validation of a lot of the work that I had done. I was a pretty good player. I mean, Jay saw me play baseball. I was fast all of the sports anybody saw me play, I was playing as a baseball player. That's what it came down to. The hands are still there, the feet are still there. That's how I operate, and I knew when it wasn't going to happen for me playing any farther than junior year because the opportunities weren't going to be there because I just didn't have it in me to seek all this out without the help of my parents, without the help of sort of the baseball community the same way. So when I see stories like that, like Dylan's, particularly around that game, it matters to me a lot. And I think that that's part of the reason is that this subculture of youth sports being you have to dive into this whole life. Never mind the larger culture of what baseball is in America, the oldest, pun not intended, but, purposeful, and the most conservative league by a mile. It's not that hard to understand why Black folks ain't trying to be about that, and it's because there's another level to this. And this is something, Jay, that I think that you'll understand a lot is that, listen, a lot of folks come from a lot of places that are not exactly privileged. A lot of folks come from places that are terrible. And a lot of folks come from places that are largely part of just kind of in between or whatever. It's you're just regular folks. We ain't all trying to turn into superstar athletes. We're trying to play. You know what I mean? And the value of play to us is something that I think a lot of the powers that be in a lot of sports only view as, oh, you trying to make it out the hood, or you trying. I'm like, no, bro, why don't you just put a field there so I can play with my friends? That's really all I want to do. You know what I'm saying? And baseball hasn't figured that part out yet. That's what basketball and football, to a certain extent, have sort of figured out, that a lot of people just like the game because they like the game. It doesn't have to be a make it out the hood situation, you know? And once we lost that in terms of baseball for a lot of different reasons, I think that's when a lot of the interest across the board in races, Jay, you know what I'm saying, changed with the game. You know what I mean? Because baseball now, dude, it is effectively a niche sport. It's something that I care about deeply a lot, and I cover and I know a ton about. Yeah. If it wasn't for me being 40 and, you know, 30 years into this game regarding how much I care about baseball, I mean, what would I know? You know what I'm saying? It's taken a lifetime just to be able to talk about it at all. And even still, people are like, oh, what, you think you know something about baseball, black man? I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I do.
You know, I know
do.
way more than you, and that's fine, you know? So, like, that's the thing that, for me, is there is a definitive social ceiling for a lot of different reasons. And I don't think it's because anybody's intentionally, I mean, sure. Is the sociology of scouting, is there outright racism? Are there things that keep black people off of teams, that keep people on teams? For sure. You know what I'm saying? But, like, I think that baseball, Major League Baseball, which is to be delineated from the entirety of baseball, because baseball across the globe is fun. Major League Baseball is a different story. Yeah. I just don't think they understand what they're not looking at. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times, you know, it's there. What is that they say? The brain can't compute, or your eyes can't compute what the brain doesn't know. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at something you have no idea what it is, you're not going to be scared of it if it's, you know, dangerous. And if you do know what it is, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's that kind of a thing where they don't really realize what the issue is because they're not used to looking at anything like that. You know?
Yeah, no.
You said like the MLB is different than baseball on a whole worldwide.
Yeah, man. There's high school baseball, there's college baseball, there's minor league baseball. Right. Cats are playing baseball in Korea. Go to any country south of Florida. Cats are playing baseball all over the place. Check out the World Baseball Classic. That joint,
every year,
bangs.
Every year.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
and the
baseball,
game's entertaining. The games are much more entertaining sometimes.
Thank you. You know what I'm saying? That's Jay understands that the game is the game. The league is the league. You're trying to make the major leagues for the purposes of money making and for the purposes of exposure and, you know, top down, obviously institutionally, that's the way it all works. But baseball writ large is not just Major League Baseball. Not at all. No. You know what I'm saying? Like, not remotely, you know.
And I know you're a super baseball fan. You've been a baseball fan. You've kind of got me into baseball, even just from me watching you on ESPN. Like, hey, you know what? I'm going to take a look at baseball for a second. You know, I'm a little older now, so I like things, you know, some things a little bit different to me, you know.
Slower stuff.
Yeah, you know, slower space. Little golf here and there, maybe. Yeah, you know.
Little golf? You watching the golf these days?
I watch a little bit, just a little bit. Okay. You know what I mean? Nothing too heavy. When I can get my hands on it, you know, nothing too heavy, man. Nothing too heavy. Right. Dog. But you know, Ty, go ahead, man. Ty, what throw a question at him, man? I know you wanted to get one in.
Yeah. Man, over the past year, you know, with the George Floyd thing going on, there was a lot of sports commentators, sports talk show hosts, and even athletes that all of a sudden became activists. And some of them, I didn't really care for what they were saying because it seemed like they didn't do their research on it. I just wanted to know, what was your take on some of these talk show hosts and sports athletes that became activists speaking on this?
Regarding 2020 and activism in journalism, there's a couple things to keep in mind. Number one is that, and I actually just got through talking about this on Twitter in regards to sort of the concept of objectivity versus judgment. Yeah, is one that for journalists, I think is something that we are oftentimes steered the wrong way on, Jay. Yeah. The concept of objectivity is falsely stated as not taking any sides, when in fact, what objectivity is, at least to me, is understanding your place in the world and allowing for that as you report outward. Yeah. And so a lot of people, I think, particularly journalists who consider themselves informed and are informed, and people who are in public spotlights, were very much in a position they weren't used to being in. You know what I'm saying? Just because you see a black person on the screen, it doesn't necessarily mean that this person has been steeped in the kind of personal fortitude that it takes to be able to talk about this stuff on camera. I think a lot of folks think that, well, if it were me, I'd just say this, that, and the third. Well, you ain't them. You know what I mean? And you don't know what it took to sort of get to that point. And I'm not giving anybody a pass for anything they say that's foul. I'm just saying that, like, in a time in which so many people were being asked to speak on things that they probably weren't necessarily qualified to speak on, a lot of things came out of a lot of folks' mouths that they regret. And a lot of things came out of a lot of folks' mouths that were short-sighted, Jay. Yeah, you know, but I felt, for me, I was lucky enough, and by lucky, I mean just timing of the world. You know, we came up in 80s and 90s DC, one of the most violent times in the history of modern America. We know what that looks like.
We know murder capital.
Murder cap, dog. You know what I'm saying? I don't need any background information to tell you what it feels like to be living in a society in which gun violence and police brutality affects your life on a day-to-day basis. I don't need to go to class for that. I don't need to watch the news for that, dog. That's living everyday life. And so when it came to sort of describing those kinds of things, that was easy for me. I think for a lot of people in this business, they don't know that stuff. And so they're charged with speaking on these things in ways that are thoughtful, in ways that are personal. But like to say that somebody recently becomes an activist because they were asked about something that's in the news or they're reporting on something that's in the news, I think is a little unfair. And it's one of those things where the pendulum overswings, where it's like, oh, what were you doing this whole time? Well, what I was doing this whole time was telling you about the daggone sports. You know what I'm saying? Like, or whatever. And so for a lot of journalists, like, again, news, entertainment, they cross over in ways that I think a lot of people are way too serious about. But like, dog, just like you can't expect every single Black person you meet on the street to be the smartest individual to talk about everything, you certainly can't expect every Black person you see in the media to, and they shouldn't have to be. Not everybody out here is built for this. You know, 7 years ago when Ferguson was happening, I was arguing people on Jake Tapper's show, yelling and screaming about how Black folks need to be taken more seriously. I don't got to do that anymore. You know what I'm saying? I come at it from a different angle, and everybody comes into their entry point to, I guess what we'll just call the resistance on some level, you know, in a different way. I caution people who sit back and say, oh, I don't, you know, like media criticism is not what we need necessarily at this point. What we need to do is amplify the voices that make sense so those people feel more empowered to continue to do so. And those who are out here wilding, pull them aside and let them know it's not about being wrong. It's not about being out of pocket, but sometimes you're in the way. You know what I'm saying? If you're in the way, please get out of the way. Please enjoy the show or the revolution, as it were. You know what I'm saying? I use revolution in the larger sense here. And ain't nobody grabbing guns and going to the Capitol. I'm not an asshole. No. My point is that, like, in terms of what we think about ourselves in this country, I think there's a lot to be said for that. We spend way too much time vilifying or, you know, lauding people. It's like, yo, there's a lot of in between, dog. You know what I mean? And I think that's, in fact, where most journalists lie as humans. But because of their professional position, they're perceived to be people that are on a pedestal when, in fact, that's actually not the job. The job is to be relatable. You know what I mean? Yeah, not the other way.
Yeah, see, the relatable part. Exactly. I think people forget about that. Okay. They forget about that relatable part. Yeah. In order to be an activist, you got to be able to relate to the people. You can't just be an activist and be like, hey. So, I mean, I'm not going to lie. When I see basketball players and football players become activists because they're in front of the camera, and not because they've been activists before these times, you know, we knew activists growing up. See, we knew activists in our community, in our hood in DC. We knew them, who they were. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't.
Those people are not famous.
No, they're not. They're not. They're not famous, but they are the ones that you go to to get some better insight. They're the ones you go to get to be influenced by it all. You know what I mean? So. Yeah, bro. I mean, you really broke it down. You said some real ish right there, and I really appreciate you breaking that down, because sometimes me and Tyler, these people like, come on, man, who you trying to fool? Don't. No,
and I get why that's a natural reaction, but that's also a thing that I think comes from a place where I think a lot of times people want to relate to sort of people in the public eye through one of two ways. They either want to agree with what they say, or they want to be like, oh, they don't know shit. You know what I mean? And it's like, oftentimes, again, it's a large part of in between. Like, it's not easy to talk on these microphones in front of these cameras for a lot of people, dog. Never mind. I mean, people be talking about, oh, you on around the horn, this and the third. I'm like, listen, the doing of the job is half the battle. Meaning, like, saying a coherent sentence while looking at the camera and looking decent and finishing your point in less than 45 seconds is not easy. I don't care what you're talking about. You could be talking about your mama's cereal that you ate every day of your life. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that you can put it together when you're seeing it on TV. And that's not an excuse for people. My point is just that, like, don't confuse the sort of, and I'm not saying this to you, I'm saying this to the larger listening audience. Yeah. Let us not confuse the business of show with the sort of reality of life. And I mean that in the context of, I understand how much symbolism means. And you can't get on the box talking crazy. Absolutely. But for a lot of these athletes, they don't train these guys in this. They train these dudes how to do box jumps and make their hands move so they can get through offensive linemen. Or they train them how to step slide so they can guard Steph Curry or put a ball through the hoop. Everybody has to learn something at a certain point. And as grown men here, it's easy for us to say, man, what you doing? Well, you know what I'm saying? Come on now. Go ahead. Come on the porch. You know what I'm saying? We're going to tell you what to do. We're going to tell you how it goes so that you can then take that knowledge out and then utilize it in your spaces, in your situation. That's kind of how I try to look at it. I remember the story when Cam Newton was mixing it up with that kid, and that kid was calling him ass and calling him trash and this, that, and third. And people were like, oh, he deserves to be beaten up. I'm like, dog, this is how it rolls. You know what I'm saying? Cam can take it. He pulled that kid aside, and the kid was obviously a little out of pocket, but whatever, man. Like, what are you talking about? There's no reason a kid like that should have to apologize to America and tag news outlets because some rando person is like, oh, I don't like his attitude. You know, no coach is going to deal with that. I'm like, this is not, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? Like, there's way too much exposure on a lot of people, and people say, well, that's why you should be more careful. But to me, that's the exact opposite. It's why we should be more caring, you know, and why we should look at kids and say, or even young people, and by young people, I mean people under 25, flatly, or even, you know, because the way that the world has sort of evolved so quickly between, I mean, listen, Rodney King feels like it was a million years ago, and it wasn't.
It wasn't.
You know what I'm saying? It wasn't. We've had a lot of short-term history trauma in Black America, and expecting every Black person who gets in front of a camera to be well-versed on that to the point that they can speak on it with such aplomb is not reasonable to me. It just isn't.
No, are you kidding me? We already about to do a podcast called Stop Killing Us, and that's something that goes deep. It's been going on forever. You know, they've been forever. When we were growing up, when our daddies. My
homie Wesley Lowery wrote the book "They Can't Kill Us All." That was the name of it, and it was based on his reporting. Based out of Ferguson, and he's a friend of mine from Cleveland. You know, he wrote for the Post. When I wrote for the Post, he was on the national desk, and the story was just about sort of the entire sort of breakdown of what came out of Ferguson so many years ago and how they look at us. And that, you're exactly right about that, Jay. They can't kill us all, but a lot of us know how to stay alive, and we don't all figure it out the same way. You know, we teach each other.
Bro, you're telling the truth right there. A lot of us have tried to stay alive, man, try to figure it out. Like that's what it is. Try to make a living. That's really to make a living. You know what I mean? Make some ends, make some change our lives in different
liberty,
ways.
And the pursuit of happiness.
Yes,
not always congruent with staying alive if you're a Black person.
No, I mean, because we really have to be conscious of your Black happiness, whatever that is for you. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
Like, goodness. So and I know this. We got a storm over here, see. So I think you brought the heat tonight, boy.
Come on, son. The thunder and the lightning at the same damn time.
Shut it down, so it's getting crazy. It's getting crazy. But see, like, I greatly appreciate you coming and sharing your story and telling us what's going on.
I'm not me without you. Everybody knows.
Bro, man, I'm telling you, every time I see you, I smile so big. See my boy doing this thing. It's one of them things you just, I mean, look, I ain't trying to make it like kissing my man's ass. I know.
Man, shut up, dog. We know the routine. I'm the one that went to the league. All right, listen, I'm very happy about that.
You okay? So
I'm proud of that, and I appreciate your support, man. It's real. You know what I'm saying? It's very real.
You know it, man. It's so real, and and for me, I remember when I told you I was putting the podcast together. I was like, see, I just heard you on the radio, dog. I'm about to put a podcast together. He was like, go for it.
Talked about it.
Go for it. And I see now that it was important for me to take that chance, and I think. I owe a big portion of that to you, bro. The gall, the confidence, I don't give a shit about how you feel. I'm going to express how I feel, and you're gonna enjoy it. You're gonna like it or not, And I think more than any time, people don't understand the value of that as brothers. You know what I'm saying? They don't understand the value of us being examples for each other, not just for youngins coming around or whatever. Like, most dudes, I'm so jealous of that dude, blah, blah, blah. Like, what you got to be jealous of? This is my boy who has been in the trenches with me since we was kids.
Right.
Navigating white DC. You know what I'm saying?
Basically,
And we really had a time and really a path that we could follow that other kids didn't have, other Black kids in that city didn't have. When I see you doing what you're doing, it's not just I'm smiling just for me, but I'm smiling for all the kids I know that do not have the same opportunities. They need an example, that especially from our area. And I'm talking about DC. Everybody call it the DMV. I'm from DC.
Nah, you're talking about the district, right?
The district. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Anacostia High School, Ballou High School, Wilson High School. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about
all the KIPP schools that are over there. You know what I'm saying?
Listen,
right. We know that.
Benjamin Banneker, all of them. I'm talking about all these kids.
Shouts to Woodson. You know what I'm saying? Right.
All day. You know what I mean? So it's
no, and I know, and Jay, and I appreciate that, because for me, that's a large part of what it is, man. I tell people, they're like, "What's the best advice you give people?" I tell, be yourself. You know what I mean? Like, because nobody can do that better than you. And that sounds corny, but the reason why that matters, particularly for young Black boys and girls, is because No, literally nobody does do it better than us. That's why they be jocking us on social media. That's why everything we do, you know what I'm saying, in terms of what we do on a microphone, in terms of a camera, gets ripped off and stolen for something else. Like what we got in terms of how we build each other is everything, you know? And I it's not hard for me because I never had to create a character in order to do any of this. You know what I'm saying? We've talked about this, Jay. You know who it is. It's the same Bama, same number, same hood. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Same thing. You ain't
It's
changed.
not changing. And I only say that not to be like, oh, yeah, I'm so nice, because it's not about that. Because a lot of people do have to work hard in terms of the person they present. A lot of people have not had the backbone in terms of family that you and I have had in terms of our crew. A lot of people have not had, quite frankly, just the market opportunities, because as tough as DC is still a big market. If you make it in DC, you can pretty much make it everywhere as far as media is concerned.
All the time.
And a lot of people just don't know that you can do it your own way. I call this the John Thompson situation. That's the main thing that John taught everybody. Bro, we don't need all these other Bamas. We can do it ourselves. We can do it as long as we just do it the right way and do it the way that works.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And train ourselves to be great. We're going to be good. You know, and that's how I look at all this. You know what I'm saying? That's how I look at all this. Like, we can be the best if we just believe that we can be the best. And that's not some whole talented 10th thing. Hotep Twitter, do not at me. I will destroy your lives on social media.
Hotep
but I'm just
Twitter,
saying,
don't start. See, don't start.
Right. Don't start. You know who you're talking to. But what I'm saying is that, like, if we believe in ourselves in the context of not everybody has to be a star, or like, I do this because I'm good at this. Do I love it at all times? Not gonna lie, Todd, not necessarily. It ain't great all the time when somebody sticks a microphone in your face and you got to talk for everybody. That is not excellent for one's mental health. No. As a matter of fact,
you're not always
wrap this up right quick. Right. I mean, 2020, bruh, I am a different human being. Yeah. Never mind a different black person after that. Things changed. Yeah. Jay knows about that on a couple different levels. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But I was like, hold up. I got to really reevaluate and go back to fundamentals, because that's what got me here in the first place. And to get back to baseball as a little side tie-in, I'm a professional. That's what baseball teaches you. That repetition, so that your muscle memory and all that becomes second nature. So that when you really get tested, you don't do something wild because you've never been there before. You know what I'm saying? You just stick to what you do because that's what got you there. And that, for me, is a lot about what being black is. Stay true to who you are. And if who you are is something that is confusing to you, don't be afraid to share that in the family. It's the problem comes when we be like, oh, this black person is not fully realized as the wokest person on earth. Like, okay, well then come on over.
Yeah.
The water feels good. We're going to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? I got a big pool. Come on in.
Hey, listen, talk about it. Because most of us ain't woke. They say we are, but we really ain't. There's so much wokeness. The woke is just such a word now. So I'm only
dog, don't. I can't. Right.
I cannot do that. Just to throw a word. I'd rather take that word and just throw it down the toilet and flush
Agreed.
it. Hope it never comes back. Because they got a hold of it. That's the problem. The other side got a hold of it, and now it's like your wokeness. Everything is wokeness and wokeness and wokeness. And I'm
touching a part of my hand that does not look like the
exactly.
other side of my hand.
You understand what I'm saying? I said the other side. I'm not talking about all of them on the other side. I'm talking about the other side. We know who they are. So, you know what I mean? It is what it is. But, you know, see, I'm going to let you go, man. I know you got to hop on a plane.
I'm coming back home.
Going back home.
Escobar season has returned. I'm joking. I just want to say that.
But see, like, dog, man, this has been a jewel. This has been a gem. This has been some love. I love you for this, brother. You know, I always appreciate you. I appreciate everything you do. Appreciate the example you're setting. You know what I mean? And I know my listeners as well and the family as well feel the same way. Like, we all got a journey, man. And you've never stopped moving on your journey. And I continue to appreciate it. I continue to embrace it. You know what I mean? And I know you got me like I got you, bro. Every day of the week, man. Every day.
All day, man. I just want to say to your listeners as well, for those of you who think you just happen to be listening to a good show and a smart brother, incorrect. This Negro is really good at it. The verbals are something he's been about. Understand that. So when you get the thoughtfulness in terms of the topics discussed, in terms of the creativity and bringing people in, because I'll be listening in terms of just how you move around the microphone and keep the show going in and out. That shit ain't easy, okay? Just because it comes naturally doesn't mean it's not a skill. Yeah. Jay, you got that skill. That's why when you asked me, what should I be doing? I was like, go for it, my guy. You've been commanding these mics as far as I know, as long as I've known you. Why would this be any different? So, my man, keep it up.
Bro, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. Ty, you want to say something to him before you go, man?
Mr. Clinton, it was an honor to meet you, have this interview with you. Just keep doing what you're doing, man. You're a great person.
I'm trying, brother, and I appreciate that. So keep up the great work, y'all. And I got to go because I got to pack these clothes. I'm packing, just so you know how it really works, I'm going to be on the road for 10 days, which means I'm packing dirty clothes because I just got off the road. All right? I got to wash them when I get there if you want to know what the life is.
That's just the way it is. I told you, you know you be living the life. You know he be living the life. I don't know if he's going to slow down no time soon. He is on all the time, family. All the time. But listen, we're going to let him go. We want to thank y'all for listening to Jimmy Bond's podcast at Illadelphia Radio. Remember, you can call us with your comments and questions at 844-844-1244. Again, it's 844-844-1244. You can also email us at jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. Again, it's jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. That's JIMMYBONDS.
JIMMY. That sounds so good. You said it 3 times now. I had to repeat it the 3rd time. It's like when you listen to a track and you know the verse. By the time that joke comes around, that's what we do.
Podcast@gmail.com. That's my bull. Remember, family, remember, please wash your hands, practice social distancing, and make sure that you wear a mask. This thing ain't over. We acting like it is, but it's not. If you're gonna get vaccinated, go get vaccinated. If you're not, I'm not gonna hold it against you. But family, make sure you take care of yourself. Make sure you take care of your family because you never know when you get another chance to say goodbye to them or say I love you. So we're gonna keep this moving, family. You listen to the Jimmy Bond's podcast at Illadelphia Radio. I'm out.
Fam, that's going to wrap the show. We want to thank you for listening to Jimmy Bond's podcast on Illadelphia Radio. We ask you leave your comments and questions at 844-844-1244. Again, that's 844-844-1244. You can also email us at jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. That's JIMMYBONDS podcast@gmail.com. Now remember, family, we are still in the COVID-19 pandemic, so please remember to wash your hands, wear a mask, and practice social distancing. Also, remember to take nothing for granted and value every opportunity you have with your friends, your family, and your loved ones. For in these times, every moment is sacred. So until the next episode, you can find me on Good Hope Road, screaming, stay up, don't sleep in your dreams. I'm Jimmy Bonds, and I'm out.
Fight on, come on!